Welcome to EIPIP Meeting 94. This is issue number 292 on Ethereum cat herders GitHub repository. So we have items to be discussed, which are some of them are open issues and pull requests, a handful of open call for inputs that we would like to know where we are on that. And then we will take a look at EIPS Insight plus ERCS Insight for the month of November. A few updates from EIP Editing Office Hour, and we'll take a look at review action items from the earlier meeting. So starting with the first one, discuss open issues, PRs, and other topics. I believe the burning topic here is the update on EIP ERC repo split, and we are joined by Gavin. So Gavin, if you have any update on that to be shared, please feel free.
Yep. Okay. So recently upgraded my SSD and also switched from Windows to Linux. So I am still kind of getting my new development environment set up, but I will be able to resume work on the toolings soon.
That is awesome. I believe a few of the authors have shared some concern with respect to HTML proofer. Is it resolved? Where we are on that?
So the issues have primarily been that users are doing or rather authors are doing the expected thing and updating their links to the new files. The problem is they can't do that yet because the tooling isn't smart enough to be able to rewrite the links yet. And this is also because the system we have currently is a very temporary solution, and we are planning on kind of taking out all the website code from both of the projects and putting it in the new repository. But yeah, to all EIP or ERC, well, specifically to all ERC authors, don't update your links. Use EIP EIP number or ERC number, even for ERCs. And I guess also for EIP authors, if you're linking to an ERC, use EIP number.
That is helpful. I believe there were some authors with this kind of concern in yesterday's EIP Editing Office Hour. So it's a good piece of advice that all ERC authors, even if you are creating a new pull request at ERC repository, please keep the name of the file which you are referring within your document as EIP dash whatever the number was. Very well. I see also there is. Yes, please go ahead.
Also worth noting, the link checker CI thing will conflict. So, and unfortunately, that's one that gets kind of priority for check annotations because HTML proofer doesn't have check annotations. So I'm considering just removing the link or disabling the link check CI for the time being because I think it might be misleading authors.
Right. I believe as of now, on ERC repository, issue number 8 is kind of guideline for ERC authors to follow and make their PRs on the ERC repository. Do you believe if we add any additional information with respect to this HTML proofer or what they are supposed to do specifically here would be helpful?
Oh, yeah,
if it is not there? Okay.
We should absolutely do that.
Okay. You mind taking care of that?
I cannot. It's a light client's issue. Oh, wait, no, I can edit other people's issues. So yes, I can do that.
Okay, perfect. I hope this temporary solution will be answering the burning question from ERC authors as of now. But in case you guys feel any other question, feel free to drop by Ethereum Cat Herders Discord channel. We have EIP editors channel, especially for all these sort of discussion if you have any questions there. Next item here is a web page rendering for EIP and ERC. I believe we could not get to any solution last time in your absence. Well, light client was on the call and he was in the favor of having a separate web page, but unfortunately you went there. Sorry, I'm referring to Gavin here. Gavin wasn't there, so we were not able to make any decision. Wondering, Gavin, if you have any new stance that you would like to share, where we are on that.
Sorry, I was kind of busy editing the issue. Mind repeating?
My question is with respect to web page rendering for EIP and ERC. Do we consider two different pages, or is it going to be the one page?
So I think it's probably going to be still be one website, but with two very different, like, basically, my plan is one website, but each repository gets to control how its portion of the website is kind of rendered and all of that stuff, so that EIPs can have EIP specific data information on their pages, basically I want it to all to be one website so that users don't have to worry about which website do I go onto, and also so that EIPs can all kind of just share one place. But I also agree that each kind of, I guess it's working groups now, each working group kind of should get to decide what stuff is displayed on the EIP page and what kind of stuff is searchable. It allows an EIP to be searched for.
Right. So I believe we are going to maybe talk about the working group. If this is something that we should decide after getting clarity on working group, perhaps we'll come back at it. And I don't see Matt on the call today. So yeah, it would be fine when we have some more clarity and then we come back to that issue. Very well. The next topic is topic group. And I see Sam joining the call. Sam, if you would like to maybe share a high-level structure of topic group or working group, or what is the plan to take it forward?
Sure. So I'm kind of working on like a prototype of how I think it should work. Essentially, there's one repo per group, and yeah, that's pretty much the only change. It looks very similar to the ERC EIP split, but I'm going to get all the tooling working ahead of time, and then I'll shop it around for people's approval. Nothing's hugely different from today. Biggest changes are removing the EIP dash prefix and the ERC dash prefix, so it's just numbers. I've already sent it to PandaPip and to LightClient. And yeah, I'll keep you updated as I work on that.
Very well. Thank you for the update, Sam. So there was this question with respect to EIP editors and associates about who are associates, or is the role associate defined anywhere? Just to make it clear, editor associate is not a formal position and it is not listed on EIP1. This is just to indicate whoever are interested in contributing as reviewer and may aspire to become an EIP/ERC editor one day. And this is also being used as a tag on ECH Discord. So they get the required permission, and if editors have to make any announcement which may engage associates as well, like they should be informed, they can perhaps make use of it. And the sheet that we have added here on the agenda is just an official documentation of who all are available here. So we get a good hang of how many people are with us for this purpose, and people may be able to tag if they know whom to be tagged here for reviewing of their respective EIPs and ERCs. With that, perhaps we can move on to the call for input. I see 5 inputs. Call for inputs are there, out of which one should be closed. Sam, if you would like to maybe take on each one of
Sure.
them.
Yeah, I can run through these. Just open all these up here. All right, so starting off with the accidental function in ERC 223. Right now, it looks like everybody who's commented is in favor of this. This ends tomorrow. And this will merge a pull request removing an accidental function. Then we have ratify editors listed in EIPIP 1. The deadline for this one is November 19th, and this is basically to formally welcome Gajinder and Ben as, or Victor, sorry, as official editors. So there's no more question about that. So far, it looks like we have 2 votes in favor. Then we have remove external implementations from ERC 20. The deadline is November 19th. There's been quite a bit of discussion on here. My preferred option, I think, at this point would be to move the reference implementations into the assets directory and otherwise make no change.
Well, that might be a bit tricky with. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure one of them is unlicensed.
They're both in repositories with an MIT license file at that commit.
Oh, okay, good. Then
So-
there's no issue with that. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, except for the fact that I would rather everything in the EIPs or ERC's repository be CC0, but I guess that's hard to do even when even EIPW isn't CC0.
Yeah. So would you be okay with moving them in, or
That would be that would be vastly preferable to what we have right now.
all right? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'll make a note for that. So we have the withdraw EIP 7199, and we have 2 votes in favor of that, and that ended yesterday. So that looks like we will be merging that pull request. We have November 30th deadline for add security consideration to ERC 1271. So if anybody listening can go and leave your comments on there. It's kind of an important one. And then we have an informational EIP that is created describing apparent flaws in the ERC 20 standard. Again, kind of an important one to leave comments on, so please go and do so. And yeah, I think that's it for calls for input.
Awesome. I am confident that this will help us get to a decision sooner rather than later. And with the deadline, we must have a decision by the end of the deadline. So yeah, this is helpful. Thank you, Sam.
Well, the deadline is very specifically anyone that hasn't responded by then basically then doesn't get to have a say. That's what the deadline means. Ideally, everything should be we should have input from everyone by the deadlines, but that has, well, even Alex I'm pretty sure Alex actually hasn't responded to, I think there's 1 or 2 that he's responded to. But yeah, so far, that's not what the deadline has turned out to mean.
Whenever we are creating this call for input, I know the link is always shared on a respective Discord for editors to follow and maybe leave a comment whenever they get a chance. Do we think if we add them in the call for input may be helpful to grab their attention sooner rather than later?
I think that right now, the problem is just that Alex is currently working on other stuff. And, well, for example, I'm also working on other stuff, specifically getting my development environment ready on this new operating system. But that also means that oftentimes there's a few of us that just aren't keeping track of everything that's going on. So I'm wondering if it might make sense to reduce the amount of time needed before basically, I'm wondering if it might make sense to reduce the 4 weeks down to 3 weeks.
Oh, just like making them faster?
making them slightly faster.
I like the long period, and I kind of picked it long to encourage people to remove inactive editors, but that didn't go very well. So, yeah.
I think this 4-week period also give us the opportunity of that particular call for input being mentioned at least twice in EIPIP meeting.
That is true. The annoying thing right now is that basically anytime a somewhat major decision needs to get made, the current system means that it can't actually happen on a single call if it's like if there is a clear consensus, because we actually have to. Well, I guess we don't have to. I guess Sam can just decide, okay, consensus has been met. But like,
No, there's a line that says every editor is entitled to be heard before the keeper makes the determination.
except that hasn't happened happened for several of them now because Alex just hasn't shown up.
Yeah. So it goes like you have 30 days and you can't make the decision until everybody's expressed their opinion, and then after that, it's the quorum is reduced to the people who have responded.
Oh yeah, I remember now.
Yeah. No, I made it to be very, very annoying. Because I think it would be much better if everybody would answer as soon as the call for input went up or as soon as we were on the call. But, that's not how this works. So,
Yeah, I think it really does seem like there should probably be some system. Well, I guess we do have a system to make lots of smaller changes faster, and that's like I guess EIPs are just an example of that. But like I think we need kind of more pathways to make more minor changes faster.
yeah, I think that's fair.
All right. We can perhaps update the proposal of the EIP as we get to a point where we need to have a smaller duration for call for input, maybe specifying that under a criteria that is time sensitive. It could be done in future if needed.
Maybe, like, for example, change that can be easily reverted only requires 2 weeks, and then there's an additional 4 weeks after it's merged where any editor can object and then bring it back to a call for input.
Yeah, I like that. It could even be like by the next EIPIP meeting or something, as long as there's a couple of days of grace if it's something really so reversible or small. Just an idea.
Like, for example, say erodering the final EIP. Like, that's pretty minor change in the grand scheme of things and can be easily reverted. And so I think that would be a good category for, like, we only need 2 weeks of deadline, and then an additional 4 weeks after that where basically an editor can object and bring it back to a call for input.
Sam?
My only concern with that is like for things like assigning an EIP number or like irrevocable changes like that.
That's what I'm saying. This
yeah.
would only be applicable for easily revertible changes and changes that don't leave a side effect.
Yeah, I think that'd be okay. I think we could work something out like that and put it in the EIP.
Sounds good.
By the
And
way, I think it will be a little bit in line in what we will try to say later in the call. So this is great direction.
Right. And I think we are almost there. I just wanted to make one final comment before we move on to the next topic. Gavin, if you have any specific example of this use case that you are talking about, it would be really helpful to be added in the EIP. I mean, like for some event to maybe come up with the idea and we will have a reference like why we want to have this thing included in the EIP.
Sure thing. So, for example, there's a few of them. First, like one, the creating of the informational EIP describing the issues with the ERC20, the withdrawing of one of those EIPs. These are things that can be easily reversed, and also don't leave a side effect, and therefore I think can be merged a bit quicker. And then if it turns, and then that kind of, I guess, forces editors to actually pay, and like forces editors that don't agree with it to then say that. But it also means that we can make the changes faster.
Sounds good. Well, thank you. And with that, I think we are good for call for input topic today. And the next one is security-related EIP modifications. There is this comment by Dexran, and I have added the link to the comment as well as a response by another user, Andrew. I know that we are joined by team to maybe talk about this particular topic. So if someone from the team maybe like to summarize what they are proposing, and then we can get it for discussion for EIP editors here.
Okay, so I'm Vladimir. I will most likely represent the let's say business or like main overall direction position, and Yuri and Dexran can be more, let's say, from technical perspective. So the main idea is basically coming from experience and from where we see everything is heading. This is more security and more definitely more cybersecurity implementation. So from this perspective, I come from the country that is part of the European Union, and it's visible that there is basically movement for every company in Europe to start implement more and more security implementation to be in line with guidelines that are provided by EU or the state where you are based. So why I'm saying that is that there is possibility, and we can see it more often. A good example is, for example, Microsoft. Imagine that Ethereum is in a position as Microsoft. I think it's not far-fetched because you are providing a platform to developers. The developers are doing their products on top of your platform and are also working in line of your, let's say, guidelines or your processes. Right now, we don't see a reasonable way how to affect already known security issues in the EIPs because they are final. If they are final, there is basically no way how to reopen them, or it's extremely hard to show to the users that this EIP has known security vulnerabilities. So the main idea is basically be able to have this information to be shown to end users or other developers, because from what we saw quite often is if you have a final EIP or EIP, people usually will take it as a template and they will use it in their projects later on. And if there is no information on revealed, already known security issues with the code that is in EIP, then basically nobody knows, and the actual developers will use the already known security issue, and they will continue basically spreading the already known problem. Because for what we can say quite certain is that always there is a good analysis of all these hacks or issues, security issues, So we know what are the issues. We cannot say like we don't know or who can know that. And like it's known that the ape has security issue. The problem is nobody kind of like knows about it, or it's extremely hard for people to see it. So so this is the main, let's say, direction why we are trying to propose it. It has many possible benefits, and it has also some risk involved if the platform will not do it. One of the main risks
Sorry, pause
is
just a sec. What is the solution you are proposing?
sorry, what?
You were talking about what kind of benefits the solution would propose. Would you mind actually going into what your solution is first?
Okay, I can go into the solution. So I thought it's quite clear. So if I understand it correctly, after ape is final, there is basically a limited way or almost no way how to adjust or put
That is
there.
correct.
Yeah, so this is process that is simply either incorrect or wrongly designed, because it doesn't respect the fact that the apes and any program or anything will change in the time. And if we know already that the code is faulty and is simply wrong, because we know that it is, as I said, then there needs to be a way how to reopen it and possibly comment it.
So I would say that the solution I prefer to see. So first of all, I need to establish what EIPs are for. EIPs are basically a way of making sure that basically once you implement something, then it's almost like a label. As long as your smart contract implements an EIP correctly, then other contracts can expect that contract will implement the EIP. So in terms of actually modifying final EIPs, I don't quite like that. But I do agree that there are now multiple instances where an EIP has had flaws that mean that it shouldn't be used. So I'm wondering if what we want to do is make another working group, but that working group is unlike any other working group in that it is explicitly like it does issue recommendations. So as a whole, the EIP project does not issue recommendations. The existence of an EIP does not mean that basically it's a good idea to use it. The existence of an EIP is just a way that you can ensure interoperability. However, people have been, I will fully admit, people have been using EIPs as almost a way of, oh, if this is published, then it's safe. And so I think at this point, we do need a way to communicate to readers that there are probably better options available. And so possibly an opinionated working group might be a good idea.
So as you said, there are many quite complex how to do it. Obviously, what we are trying to achieve is to start this discussion, and most likely the implementation can be more complex, because as you said, either we can put a label there, so this doesn't touch actual ape finalization, but there is information provided to the people. Hey, there is something wrong here. Maybe you should take a look on the updated version of the ape or ERC. So there are many ways how to tackle it. I don't think we can give you straight away all the possible solutions, but one of the solutions is obviously ability to reopen. I do understand why this is not let's say liked idea, because obviously if you can reopen something, you can change it, then you need to have then you are basically ending with the question, who is guarding the police? Yeah, so I know it's a really difficult discussion, but there are many solutions. One of the solutions is basically being able to put some, let's say, label or some note that is on top of, let's say, these apes or things. Basically, to say in this particular ape, we know there is this security vulnerability, and please be aware of that. The reason why I said the example with Microsoft is that it's actually quite a good comparison, because you are providing the platform, and in the end, if the users are damaged and the money is lost or stolen, in the end, who will be responsible? Obviously, what we think right now is that the responsibility lies solely on the developers, and they are responsible for what they write. But in the end, the platform needs also to be able to explain why and how they did everything possible to help the people to at least take in consideration that these risks are there.
So again, the purpose of EIPs is not to endorse specific standards. It's simply to provide labels that allow things to interact with each other, no matter how bad those interactions, no matter how no matter how flawed those interactions are.
Yeah, you're
Again,
kind of
though,
saying
people.
like you're kind of saying like if you implement ERC20, even if ERC20 turns out to be completely broken and horrible, somebody can come along and know how to use your ERC20, 30
So
years from
that
now.
is what the goal, that is kind of what the IP project is. But I will not deny that people have been arguably misusing it as an endorsement of a specific standard. And in that regards, I think that we can do better to communicate to readers that something is flawed. And a few things that I can think of doing off the top of my head that would require almost no effort on our part is make the security considerations always editable post-final. Any modifications to the security considerations are wrong, no matter kind of what they are, as long as they are true. Second thing is move those security considerations way up if they are important. So if there is like a really glaring issue, then we should be able to move the security considerations above even the abstract. So those are kind of two things that I can think of that wouldn't require much work at all, and I think would definitely be a good benefit.
So I'm definitely starting to come around, and I think that we do need something. You and Daxoran have convinced me for sure. But it is just how to implement it, and I think in a way that keeps the EIPS process, true to its goals. And I think right now my concern with what you suggested, Panda, is that if we edit the security considerations, like who is supposed to decide whether an edit is allowable or not? Like, if it's the author and the author doesn't want to reveal the security vulnerability because it will, hurt their NFT marketplace like stock, and they keep blocking the pull request, are they allowed to do that? Do EIP editors need to make that choice?
I would say let the EIP editors make that choice. Make it clear that EIP editors are making that choice.
Then that puts us in a place where we have to make decisions that we lose some of our credible neutrality if we do that.
So
I think okay.
I don't agree that you will lose any credibility. Obviously, that you need to have a little bit
credible neutrality. It's slightly different.
Okay.
Basically, the process is designed so that EIPs again are just a label that can effectively be applied to compliant smart contracts. Something is compliant or it is not. What the problem is that what I'm suggesting does admittedly go outside of the scope of what the project is for. The project is not for kind of determining what is good practices, no matter how obvious those good practices may appear to be. I do think that we can. So again, what I've suggested is making another working group that is explicitly not credibly neutral.
Yeah, and I think that'd be acceptable.
Okay.
So
I think we-
I will just give you some notes from, let's say, outside perspective, because I'm a little bit, let's say, less involved with the ongoing process. But from my perspective, like, I see apes as a template basically to be used. Obviously, what you are saying makes sense. I don't know if anyone is actually aware of what you are saying. It makes sense. It's basically a repository that needs to basically track. So in 10 years, you know how it was done. But the question is, if basically everybody sees it differently, if it's better to basically adjust and do what is, let's say, expected. How to do it, as you said, is I think the options that you can do. Obviously, you can see, I think, a little bit better than for example, me. But I think there needs to be done something. How it's done, I think you are right. It's extremely difficult to have a process where basically you only store information how things were done, and that's it. And something that is, let's say, updatable or commentable, where you need to have some judge basically to decide if I push this button and then announce that this NFT marketplace has a security issue, therefore possibly damaging the issue. And if it will happen that this marketplace didn't have security issue and it was just false alarm, then this can be quite big issue, obviously. So yes, there are many things that that needs to be considered. I think the main thing was to basically bring up the topic and open the discussion, because we do believe we have experience to basically be part of the discussion and possibly give you some good proposal that obviously will adjust as you see fit.
So I think we can probably model a bit of this on what the IETF does. So the IETF's working groups are literally working groups. So kind of there is a working group responsible, for example, the actual specification part of the proposal, one for the security considerations part of the proposal, etc. I think we can start doing that and taking effectively the security considerations out of the EIP and into its own working group. And I think that the security considerations working group should not be explicitly credibly neutral. I think that the security considerations...
The working groups don't necessarily need to be credibly neutral, right? Just the editors do. So I think that works very well. Yeah.
So if we create a working group with the only goal of determining what should be done with any given EIP security consideration, whether or not it should be moved to the top or left in its current situation, what changes should be made to it post-final. And let's be perfectly honest, I don't think that the process for adding or editing the security considerations, like editing the security considerations section should not depend, like the process should not depend on what stage the proposal is at, except maybe in draft.
So
right? Because if there's a security consideration, it doesn't matter if it's in review, last call, final, or even in living. It should have the same process, except maybe authors should have an easier time disclosing vulnerabilities.
Maybe we can add a section like security reference. It will be so strictly like consideration. We will public in the reference links to the security company or security experts who describe issue in some AP if they found, or in security reference can be public audit information that this AP was checked by a security company and was confirmed that this AP is have no big issues, for example.
So something like that would probably go on a wiki. Like, I think that kind of a format would be great for collecting security considerations.
So I'm wondering if what we want to do is basically make EIPs literally, like the actual EIP part of the EIP, literally just the abstract and the security considerations, and maybe also the test cases. So that is what the EIP itself is. And then we take all the other sections, the security considerations, motivation, rationale, reference implementation. I guess the copyright section goes in the regular EIP bit. And then we take all of that and we make that a wiki.
Also, like if you will consider the actual solution, I think it's extremely good if there will be a place where different like I will give you a good example. Something was hacked. We know usually one day after why it was hacked, and we usually know what vulnerability was used maximum in a few days. There is no doubt about that because there are many companies working on Ethereum doing different analysis of these hacks, etc. So there is definitely a good thing in this, but the question is how this information will be provided to users or especially developers. So for example, if I used ERC 20 and I know it's a part of my code, how I will receive notification or how I will receive the information that something changed, and that because if it's part of EIP, then obviously if the EIP status will change, I will receive notification straight away from the GitHub. No, so this is basically kind of semi-automatic.
So I think what the easiest solution to that would be is have an RSS feed that is updates to security consideration sections. What do you think, Sam?
I'm thinking what we should probably do is time box this conversation for now. Make maybe a Discord channel or a thread or something to keep our thoughts on, or we'll use the discussion thread that we already have. And we list out like what the possible solutions to this are, like whether we have a wiki, whether we allow modifications to the security consideration section, and we kind of sketch out all the different like options, and we try to decide on that. Because I think right now we're kind of just brainstorming on an hour-long call, and I think that's
I think we
not
need a time
efficient.
box there.
Yeah, you are correct. I think what we wanted to do is mainly to open the discussion. If you are open to the discussion, I think it's exactly what you said. The solution most likely can be completely different from what we discussed right now, and it needs to be discussed in some open format. So if we can join the group and put the ideas there, we'd be happy to do so.
You guys are in the Ethereum Cat Herders Discord, right? Okay, great.
All right. So I see here in the chat, Dex has also shared the link to the Fellowship of Ethereum Magician, where this proposal is active. People may find the link in the agenda today and may perhaps leave their comment and thoughts on any possible solution to this proposal for security consideration. With that, I think we can perhaps move on to some of the open PRs, which are with respect to final proposals. I see a bunch of proposals added here, and most of them are from the earlier call. So I wonder if any editor has any thought on any proposals to be allowed or not. The number one is ERC number 49, which is for ERC 223, remove standard function.
I'm pretty sure the deadline for that is tomorrow. So far I think we've got 2 approvals, and let's see.
Yeah.
This is an example of where I would like that 2-week deadline that can be easily reverted.
Okay. So just for the summary of this call, do we want to keep it on hold because there is one more day left, or is there anything that we can answer it as a solution to this PR? Or maybe next
think
step?
we should. Sam, are you willing to merge this tomorrow if nobody objects?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Merge it tomorrow if nobody objects. Okay, the next one here is update ERC 2612, which seems to be like a small typo, and the PR number is ERC 57.
Yeah, this is. I'm pretty sure this is correct.
So we can allow
Um,
merging.
Yes. So, so annoyingly, this is in the spec, but this is fine, I think. Actually, hold on. So, I'm pretty sure that there's. So it first of all, I think it's pretty clear what the original intent was. Second, I actually, you know what? I think that this is actually incorrect. Wait, is it? Hold on, I need to actually check the ERC20's back here.
I think Joey is on the call, who is the author of this PR. Joey, if you have to add anything here.
Yeah, sorry, what was the question for ERC 2612?
I'm just double checking
Right.
that the function name is correct.
Yeah, I believe the function name is called allowance, not approval, for the mapping that, I mean, it's not even, it's kind of weird because in ERC 20, it's defined as a function,
You
not
are
a
correct, it
mapping.
is
So the
allowed.
fact that, yeah, so
in
the fact
Solidity
that it's
mappings, so in Solidity,
yeah,
public
mappings are
mappings automatically become functions with 2 parameters, I'm pretty sure.
right. Yeah, but it was just like, you know, the way that he wrote
It's an odd style choice, but
yeah.
yes, this can be merged.
Yeah.
This is a very obvious errata.
Cool. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, next, do we have any more?
Yeah, the next one is ERC 1363, fixed created date.
Sorry,
This
I was
is-
on mute. Yeah,
No
that's
worries.
right, Sam. Yeah.
Guys, I think from my perspective, if it's all, and if anything, I will be obviously on Discord or forum to be reached if something is needed. Thank you for consideration, and bye-bye.
Thank you. All right, so the next one is 1363, which has actually 1, 2, 3, 4 open PRs. Number are 66, 74, 75, and 76, all with respect to one proposal, which is ERC 1363.
I'm not sure about the created date. I don't think there's any precedent for what the created date is, and therefore I don't think it should be changed since it's final.
Oh, I mean the created date, like it was an issue before, so.
Yes, I know it is an issue. I will fully admit here, the created date in EIP1 is just completely underspecified. Since EIP 1363 is final, I don't think we should be changing it, the created date.
So it's a
Unless-
field. It's a field in preamble. We should use that, right? Why do we want to change it?
Oh, so the created date was set to when it was upgraded to a markdown file, as opposed to like it was a draft issue created long before that. So
I guess
yeah.
we can see what ERC 223 did. So ERC 223. Okay, they used the issue created date. Okay, yeah, sure. This is good.
Yeah, ERC 20 is 2015, which is well before the using markdown. So
Sure. I'm still not a fan of updating final EIPs just to change the created date to something different, but you know what? Since this is what most of them are doing, I'm fine with it.
So I'm just trying to understand here, like a created date is a field which is added when the draft was added. Why was that not updated at the time of making draft? It could have
Because
been
there's-
easily updated.
So the draft was created as an issue in
That's
2018.
why. I mean,
Uh,
there must have been a draft in Markdown, and in that they can add any date if they want to keep the issue
Oh,
date
yeah,
as
yeah. They just put
that-
the wrong date when they made the markdown file.
Okay. I don't see any, as of now, I don't see any advantage of changing that date, any significance why they want to change it, except for history purposes if they want to keep it there.
Yeah,
But,
I think it's just a like it was one of many modifications they're making to the EIP, and this is the only one I thought was reasonable. But yeah.
So I think also this kind of ties into the fact that the created date is just like completely arbitrary. Like everyone says it's the date at which the proposal was created. Like this is like unclear. Is it the date at which it was merged? When it was first conceived? When it became an original issue or a pull request? Like it's just arbitrary, and I think yeah. Most of them have been the issue creation date.
Yeah, yeah. It's the
Right.
earliest date a relatively complete document has appeared on the EIPS repository, I think is the rule we go with.
What about Ethereum magicians?
I think that would create a lot of confusion. We should be clear here, and created date is a field which is to be filled by the author. If they want to keep the created date as the initial date of when it comes to their mind, they can add that date. We should not go ahead and change it. Like, let's keep what author propose it when they are creating the markdown for the first time, and whatever date they enter, we respect that. Is what I'm thinking is would be the right thing to do here is, because I know the confusion about the created date, because I was trying to create a chart where we are trying to find how much time did it take from one proposal to move from draft to final. And there are two created date here. One is the date, what is added in the preamble field, and one is the date when it was actually merged. And there could be a months of difference between these two. But what we are trying to do here is like whatever created date they have added as in the field of preamble should be considered as a created date.
Okay. How about for like the date at which the EIP editors were first made aware of it?
That's making the PR date.
Well, except it also works
And-
for things where there's not actually a PR, which was the kind of previous way of doing EIPs.
But that could be very confusing. Many editors could not get notification of that, right? So
Well,
first
they're
time
very
they get
Very
notification.
specifically, like when a notification is kind of the date at which the notification was sent, basically. Like, so this doesn't, whether or not the editors actually check it does not have an effect on when it was actually sent.
So if we try to collect this piece of information with respect to GitHub, I think GitHub Action Bots provides us history
would
when
just
the
be the
PR
PR
is
date.
merged. Yeah, when it is
But I
merged or
think
when it
we
is
also-
created.
I also think we should try to avoid depending too much on actually GitHub as the flow for what we do. I think that whatever we have in EIP1 should not depend on there actually being such a thing as a pull request that is required to submit an EIP. I think pull requests and all this should just be implementation details.
Right. And while creating pull requests, this is the opportunity with author. They can input whatever created date they want to add there. I have never noticed any EIP editor creating an objection on the date of creation based on like, why is it different
No,
from the
because it's
PR date?
completely arbitrary.
Yeah, they can put it arbitrary. Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure that my first EIP 4834 has a created date that is 2 days before the actual date I submitted it because I made a typo.
All right, let's get back to the this PR here. Do we want to add it, update it? I see there are a bunch of other updates considered for this particular EIP. So if we want to make it a part of it, it can be done. But I just want to be watchful of creating this as an example that anybody in the future can come back and say that my issue was originally created this, whether it was not with respect to the PR.
You know what? I'm in favor of changing the created date on this proposal, and I also think that the authors, if they strongly disagree with it, should be able to change it back. Because
Like I
I
said,
think
I think the authors were the ones who originally proposed this change. So
oh, okay, then yeah, this is a no-brainer then.
Right. Yeah. If the author himself wants to do it, we can perhaps allow it. But yeah, we should be mindful of this kind of situation.
yeah, the authors approved the pull request.
Oh, okay, then yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, let's do it.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm just gonna pretend this is not controversial, and we're gonna go for a merge on that. All
Worst
right.
case, you
there
can
are-
always revert it.
There are, I think there are 2 or 3 other open PRs with respect to this EIP. So if we can make decision on that, perhaps we can mark this item as completed. So the
Okay.
next PR is 74.
This is how much of this is actually rewritten? I'd say that the rewritten version is actually just way better stylistically, but unfortunately, it is also rewritten.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the description and simple summary don't actually match up. Although that's partially because you can't have markdown, and because the simple summary was just bad. And, oh gosh, what was their former abstract? Okay, I'm in favor of this just because of how poor the original content is. That's appalling. And being hyperbolic, but like, yeah, this is just better writing anyway.
Yeah, but that's kind of goes against the spirit of changing a final EIP, right? Like,
This one's tough.
All right. So
You know what? I don't think it actually. I don't think it creates any incompatibilities here. It's just a rather large errata. It fixes some bad style choices. What do you think?
it's final, so I'm generally against editing it. And if they want to publish a new version with, updated text, they absolutely can.
Okay. How about we recommend to the authors, to the author of PR number 74, that they split this into, first of all, split it into things that are actually necessary, like moving the simple summary to the description, updating the discussions to URL. These are things that I think are good and should be merged. Do you agree, Sam?
I don't know if changing the discussions to is necessary.
Well, I mean, it's just not the correct link anymore.
That if people want to see the historical discussion for this EIP, it is the correct link.
Well, except the historical discussion. Oh, is there actually anything on the updated Ethereum Magicians link, or is it just stub?
Well, that's what I mean. Like, I think the old
No,
like
there's actual historical discussion that's of. Is there? No, there's not. Okay, considering there's not actually any discussion on the new link that's not on the original link, so I'm against updating it to the new Ethereum Magicians link, because that wasn't actually where the discussion took place. In terms of moving the simple summary to the description, as long as no changes are made apart from removing the markdown, because there is no markdown in the preamble, that I think is okay. In terms of any other obvious fixes, as long as it's an obvious fix, that's fine. I would also like them to submit another PR that actually does all of this changing, and ideally section by section, so updating the abstract and updating the motivation, because I do think that the writing of ERC 1363 is not the strongest, and I would like to see it changed, especially since let's be, again, I'd say the purpose of the EIP project is to kind of create specifications that can be applied to different programs to enable interoperability. If modifying the final EIP does not conflict with this mission and in fact makes it easier for potential implementers to kind of understand what the proposal is all about, I think we should be allowed to modify a final EIP.
That's kind of vague statement, like people can interpret it differently. We need to be explicit about what are the conditions under which it can be allowed, because if the potential user should understand it better, then we may have to end up updating a lot of final EIPs.
I do agree here. So we do need to be explicit about it. I'm just throwing this out here. Should we be allowed to modify final EIPs to make the content easier to read, because it will help implementers in the primary objective of the EIP project, which is to enable interoperability?
No, I don't think we should. I think if somebody wants to take the spirit of this EIP, if somebody wants to specify the same thing as this EIP with different words, they can just make a new EIP for it.
So
but arguably it's just the same label though, right? Because I'd say all an EIP is just a label that can be kind of applied to something that's compliant.
Yeah, I'd like to understand the thought process, Sam, behind your no, just so that we understand the principles that we're discussing this under.
Oh, sure. So the EIP is supposed to be immutable, and whether the wording is exactly the same
Would you
as
mind
the
explaining quickly why you feel like the entire EIP should be immutable?
Immutable of content, or immutable of text, or immutable of the actual spiritual content,
So,
right? It's like letter of the law versus.
Yeah, so absolutely immutable. Sorry, go ahead, Panda.
Because again, I do agree that the actual EIP, the main part of the EIP itself, what the EIP is, and even it's like the details in the specification, not the text itself, but the specification should be immutable. What should not be immutable is the actual text itself, because the EIP can still be the same EIP, but with different text. And one of these ways kind of just the EIP, in my mind, is what is trying to be conveyed by the document itself, not the actual document itself.
Well, I think we should try to wrap this up here. I am sure we are not going to get a solution until we have some more thoughts collected from editors who may not be able to make it today. Would it be okay to have it added to the next meeting agenda as like specified conditions under which final EIP can be considered for changing?
Yes, and I think we should also kind of create almost like a more general thing of like, what is kind of like, what constitutes the EIP itself? Because I think we should all agree that EIPs themselves, once they're final, are immutable. But what the actual EIP, like, what are the parts of the EIP that are essentially EIP and what are the parts that are just kind of helping the reader to understand the EIP. And by the way,
Very well.
Sam, at some point I'd actually like to just have like a one-on-one conversation so that we can try to find some consensus here.
Yeah, sure.
Very well. So I will go ahead and add that for discussion in the next meeting. And I would request EIP editors to maybe take a look at the other open funnel proposals. If they have any thoughts, they can perhaps add it. If we get a consensus on the pull request itself, we can make a decision on merging it on the next call. Otherwise, we can definitely bring it up for further discussion. I'm trying to just look over other items if there is anything of higher importance that we might want to discuss. I think there are a couple of other items with respect to renaming of ERC office hour and things, but we don't have time. How about we decide on the next meeting time? This was not our usual meeting time. Our usual meeting is 1400 UTC, but this day for today, we made it 1530 UTC. As I can look into the time for the next meeting, which could be on November 29th. I see it is in conflict with execution layer P2P breakout. What is our stand on that? Where do we want to have it? Do we want to have it after that meeting ends, or any suggestion here?
So in terms of moving it forward, that would be less convenient for me, but I could do it. In terms of moving it backward, I can't do it any earlier than the normal time.
I'm not attending the execution layer P2P meeting, so I don't really care if it doesn't.
I'm not attending it either, but I imagine that if there is a person here that we do need to have on the meeting, it's Light Client, and I imagine that Light Client will likely be attending that meeting.
Yeah.
I don't want to assume, but
and I see that after that there is UF meeting. So both 1400 and 1500 slots are booked by other calls. So if we want to make it 1600, I can perhaps do that if it is not inconvenient for anyone present today.
Hold on, let me double check time zone.
1600 works fine for me.
I was concerned for you specifically, Gajendra Singh, but thanks for giving a green shade there.
So this is 1600 UTC?
Yeah, 1600 UTC will be 11 a.m. Eastern time.
I'm no longer Eastern time, I'm Central time, but yes, that is good for me.
Perfect. Sam, does that work for you also?
Yeah, that day's pretty open for me, so.
Okay. So let's try to avoid the conflict. Hopefully we get to join by Matt as well, so we can decide future meetings. But for the meeting scheduled on 29th, let's keep it at 1600 UTC.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you everyone for joining us today and staying a bit longer. I know this is not the usual length of the call, but yeah, thanks everyone. See you around. Have a good one.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
So bye.
Thanks, everyone.